The security camera footage showed everything. A middle-aged woman in a crisp business suit leaning over Marcus Wilson's cubicle, her finger jabbing toward his computer screen where a photo of his daughter's school play was visible. "Peek again at personal photos during work hours, and you're fired," she snapped loud enough for the entire office to hear. What happened next would change not just Marcus's life, but the entire company culture. If you're wondering how a single dad's calm response transformed a toxic workplace, stay with me, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more stories of everyday heroes who stand up for what's right. Marcus hadn't always been a single father. 3 years ago, his world had been complete: a loving wife, a beautiful 5-year-old daughter named Lily, and a promising career as a marketing analyst. But life has a way of shattering even the most perfect pictures. It was a rainy Tuesday evening when he received the call that changed everything. His wife, Elena, had been in a car accident. By the time he reached the hospital, she was already gone. Just like that, Marcus became both mother and father to their little girl, trying to navigate grief while being the stable presence Lily desperately needed. "Daddy, why do you look so sad?" Lily had asked that morning, her small hand reaching up to touch his unshaven face. Marcus had been up since 4 a.m., preparing her lunch, ironing her school uniform, and finishing a presentation for work. "I'm not sad, sweetheart," he lied, forcing a smile. "Just a little tired. But I'm so excited to see your play photos today." Lily beamed. "Ms. Johnson said I was the best tree ever. She's going to email you pictures." That email had arrived just before his supervisor, Victoria Winters, made her rounds. Marcus had only glanced at it for a few seconds, just long enough to see Lily standing proudly in her tree costume, her smile wide despite the missing front tooth. That brief moment of fatherly pride had cost him a public humiliation. Now, as Victoria's heels clicked away across the office floor, Marcus felt dozens of eyes on him. Some colleagues looked away in embarrassment, others watched with morbid curiosity. The silence was deafening until Marcus slowly stood up. "Ms. Winters," he called, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Victoria turned, surprise evident on her face. No one ever challenged her, certainly not publicly. "In private, please," Marcus added, already walking toward the small conference room. Once inside, Marcus closed the door and took a deep breath. "I understand the importance of productivity," he began, his voice calm but firm. "And I respect this company and my position here. But what happened out there wasn't about productivity. It was about dignity." Victoria's expression hardened. "Mr. Wilson, I don't have time for 3 minutes," Marcus interrupted. "That's all I ask." Something in his tone made her pause. She nodded curtly. "I'm a single father," Marcus continued. "My wife died 3 years ago, leaving me to raise our daughter alone. Every morning, I wake up at 4 a.m. to prepare Lily's lunch, help her with homework, and get her ready for school before dropping her off at 7:30. I'm at my desk by 8 a.m., and I stay until 5 p.m. I haven't taken a sick day in 2 years, and I've completed every project ahead of deadline." He pulled out his phone and showed Victoria his screen time report. "I spend an average of 12 minutes per day on personal matters during work hours. That includes checking in with Lily's school, scheduling doctor appointments, and yes, occasionally looking at photos of my daughter's achievements." Marcus's voice remained steady, but his eyes betrayed his emotion. "Those 12 minutes don't make me a bad employee. They make me a father who's trying his best to be present in his child's life while still giving his all to this company." Victoria's expression had changed from impatience to something less readable. "What you did out there," Marcus continued, "wasn't management. It was humiliation. And it didn't just affect me, it sent a message to every parent, every caregiver in that office that their families come second. Is that really the culture we want to build?" The silence stretched between them. Finally, Victoria spoke. "I didn't know about your situation. You shouldn't have to, Marcus replied. No one should need a tragic backstory to be treated with basic respect. I'm not asking for special treatment, just human decency. What happened next would ripple through the company in ways no one could have predicted. Victoria didn't fire Marcus. Instead, she did something far more unexpected. The following morning, she called an all-staff meeting. Standing before the assembled employees, Victoria did something she'd never done before. She apologized. Yesterday, I behaved in a way that doesn't reflect the values this company should uphold, she began, her voice uncharacteristically humble. I publicly reprimanded an employee for taking a moment to connect with what matters most, family. In doing so, I failed not just as a manager, but as a human being. Murmurs spread through the room as Victoria continued. Marcus Wilson reminded me of something important yesterday. We don't leave our humanity at the door when we come to work. Effective leadership isn't about intimidation, it's about understanding that our employees are whole people with lives and responsibilities outside these walls. She announced a new initiative, flexible work arrangements for parents and caregivers, a family photo wall in the break room, and monthly "Bring Your Kid to Work" days. Most importantly, she promised a shift in management style, one that prioritized results over rigid rules about how those results were achieved. For Marcus, the victory was bittersweet. While the workplace began to transform around him, he still returned each night to a home that felt too quiet, too empty without Elena. But Lily was thriving, and for the first time since becoming a single parent, he felt like he could breathe. 6 months later, Marcus sat in Victoria's office for his performance review. Your team has the highest productivity rates in the company, Victoria noted, reviewing his file. And the lowest turnover. Care to explain how you've managed that? Marcus smiled. I treat them like people first, employees second. When they need to take a call from their kid's school or step out for a family emergency, I trust them to make up the work. And they always do, usually exceeding expectations. Victoria nodded thoughtfully. We have an opening for Director of Employee Relations. It's a new position, focused on creating policies that support work-life balance while maintaining productivity. I think you'd be perfect for it. The promotion meant more money, which would help with Lily's future education. But it also meant more responsibility, more hours. Marcus hesitated. I'd need flexibility, he said finally. Lily's school play is next month, and I promised I wouldn't miss it. Victoria smiled. I wouldn't expect anything less. In fact, I was hoping you might save me a seat. The story of Marcus Wilson and Victoria Winters didn't end there. Their workplace transformation caught the attention of industry publications, and soon other companies began implementing similar policies. Marcus became a sought-after speaker on workplace culture, sharing his story and advocating for environments that recognized employees as whole people. But the most profound change happened at home. One evening, as Marcus helped Lily with her homework, she looked up at him with Elena's eyes. Daddy, she said thoughtfully, are you still sad? Marcus considered the question carefully. The grief hadn't disappeared, it never would completely. But it had changed, softened into something he could carry without being crushed by its weight. Sometimes, he answered honestly. I still miss Mommy every day. But I'm happy too. Happy to be your dad, happy with our life together. Lily nodded, satisfied. Ms. Johnson says that sad and happy can live in the same heart. Like roommates. Marcus laughed, pulling her into a hug. Ms. Johnson is very wise. That night, after tucking Lily in, Marcus found himself looking at old photos of Elena. For the first time, he could smile through the tears. He sent a text to Victoria, "Thank you for listening that day. You didn't just change a workplace, you helped change a life." Her reply came quickly, "No, Marcus. You changed everything when you stood up with dignity instead of anger. Some lessons can only be taught with grace." 3 years later, Marcus stood on a stage, accepting an award for the workplace culture initiative he'd developed, one that had now been adopted by over 100 companies nationwide. In the audience sat Lily, now 11, alongside Victoria and a team from their company. "People often ask me what the secret is to creating a humane workplace," Marcus began his speech. "They expect complex policies or innovative management techniques. But it's much simpler than that. It's about remembering that every employee is someone's parent, child, partner, or friend. It's about understanding that productivity doesn't come from fear, it comes from people feeling valued as complete human beings." He paused, looking directly at Lily. "My daughter once asked me why adults make work seem so important that they forget about the important things in life. I didn't have a good answer then. But today, I can tell her that work is important, but how we work matters just as much as what we accomplish. When we create spaces where people can be both professionals and humans, everyone wins." The applause was thunderous, but Marcus barely heard it. He was watching Lily, who was clapping so hard her program had fallen to the floor. Her smile, so like her mother's, was all the validation he needed. Later that evening, as they walked home under a canopy of stars, Lily slipped her hand into his. "Dad," she said, "I'm proud of you." Those 4 simple words healed something in Marcus that he hadn't even realized was still broken. "I'm proud of us," he replied, squeezing her hand. "Your mom would be too." As they reached their apartment building, Lily looked up at him with a serious expression. "Do you think other kids have dads who changed whole companies just by being calm?" Marcus laughed. "I didn't change anything by myself, sweetheart. Change happens when people are willing to listen to each other, really listen. Victoria could have fired me that day. Instead, she heard what I was really saying." "About dignity," Lily nodded. She'd heard the story many times. "About dignity," Marcus confirmed. "And about what really matters in life." That night, as Marcus tucked Lily in, she asked for the story of how he met her mother. It was a familiar request, a bedtime ritual that kept Elena's memory alive. As he recounted their first awkward date and Elena's infectious laugh, Marcus felt a sense of peace wash over him. Life hadn't turned out as he'd planned. The road of single parenthood was harder than anything he could have imagined. But standing up for himself that day, choosing dignity over anger, conversation over confrontation, had altered his path in unexpected ways. Sometimes the most profound changes begin with the smallest acts of courage. For Marcus Wilson, it was simply standing up and saying, "May I speak with you for a moment," with a steady voice and shaking hands. And for anyone watching who might be facing their own moment of choice between silence and speaking up, remember Marcus's words, dignity matters. Your humanity doesn't stop at the workplace door. And sometimes, the calmest voices create the most powerful echoes. If this story touched you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of everyday courage and the ripple effects of small, brave actions. Remember, it's not always the loudest voice that changes the world, sometimes it's the steadiest.